Think about the largest animal you've ever seen in person. Maybe an elephant? A giraffe? Have you ever witnessed a blue whale in its natural habitat? They're all incredibly large, but they're not even close to being the biggest animals to have ever walked the earth. In fact, they aren't even the largest animals of their own kind. Join me as we journey through time to encounter the colossal creatures that once roamed our planet and explore the secrets of their incredible size. For many, the sight of a millipede crawling across the floor is enough to send shivers down their spines. If you're one of those people, consider yourself fortunate to not have lived 300 million years ago. Back then, during the Carboniferous period, a creature known as Arthropleura roamed our planet. This enormous critter holds the title of the largest terrestrial arthropod ever discovered. Just how big was it? Based on fossils discovered in Northumberland, England, it's estimated that these behemoths could grow to an astonishing 8.2 feet long, surpassing the height of an average human. Want to know what makes them even more terrifying? It's been suggested that these giant bugs could rear up their upper body like a cobra when threatened. While paleontologists haven't been able to confirm this from fossil findings alone, imagine this monstrous creature towering over you, ready to strike. On top of that, Arthropleura fossils indicate a body mass of around 110 pounds, comparable to the weight of a typical 14-year-old human child. For reference, the largest terrestrial arthropod alive today is the coconut crab. While these creatures are undeniably enormous, they only reach 40% of the length and less than 10% of the weight of Arthropleura. The question is, what allowed these massive millipedes to grow so large? During the Carboniferous period, oxygen levels in the atmosphere were significantly higher than they are today, exceeding 30%, around 10% higher than current levels. Thanks to this elevated oxygen content, arthropods, which absorb oxygen far less efficiently than mammals, were able to achieve a larger size than they can today. Let's all give a collective thank you for the declining oxygen levels. While arthropods may not be everyone's cup of tea, dogs, on the other hand, are widely considered man's best friend, regardless of their shape or size. However, this prehistoric canine might not exactly qualify for that title. Meet Aelurodon haydeni, a prehistoric canine that roamed during the late Miocene period, between 12 and 6 million years ago. These guys were the largest canines ever to exist, measuring approximately the size of a grizzly bear. Standing a fearsome 3 to 4 feet tall at the shoulder, they could grow to an impressive 8.8 feet long. This was the largest canid ever known. Aelurodon haydeni were also remarkably bulky, typically weighing around 250 pounds, equivalent to roughly 70 chihuahuas. A particularly stout specimen even surpassed this weight. The humerus, the upper bone of the foreleg, of one fossilized specimen indicates that it must have weighed at least 370 pounds, comparable to the weight of a small grizzly bear. But size wasn't the only thing these chunky canines shared with bears. They belonged to the Borophaginae subfamily of canines, which translates to bone-crushing dogs. Yikes! Unsurprisingly, Aelurodon haydeni were equipped with extremely powerful jaws, robust molars, and incisive canines to take down virtually anything that crossed its path. Fossils of their giant teeth and mandibles, which are some 6 inches long, reveal they were specialized for a hypercarnivorous, bone-crushing diet similar to hyenas, which, curiously, are not canids. If these guys were still roaming the earth, they would make the ultimate guard dogs. Having said that, I'm not sure how comfortable I'd be with a bear-sized doggo in my house. More comfortable than 70 chihuahuas, I reckon. Would you prefer a bear dog or 70 rats? I mean, sorry chihuahuas. Bear dog. Hit that like button. And for those of you who prefer a multitude of tiny canines, hit subscribe. What colossal creature awaits us next? Let's talk birds. Birds come in a wide range of sizes, from the minuscule 2.25-inch bee hummingbird to the gigantic ostrich, which can reach 9 feet tall and weigh up to 300 pounds. While ostriches may be the largest living bird, they pale in comparison to a type of extinct feathered fowl aptly named the elephant bird. These flightless giants strutted around the islands of Madagascar until they went extinct about 1,000 years ago. They weren't just large. They were truly gargantuan. Look at this, one of their eggs. These are the largest bird eggs ever discovered. Each one was over 12 inches long and weighed a back-breaking 22 pounds, boasting a volume 150 times greater than a chicken's egg. In modern times, ostriches lay the largest eggs of any bird, yet they are only a seventh of the weight and half the height of the eggs of an elephant bird. Enough about eggs. Let's get back to the birds themselves. DNA analysis of skeletal remains reveals that these flightless giants stood 10 feet tall, making them roughly a foot taller than the average ostrich. That's a bit larger, I guess, but the largest bird of the species, Epiornis maximus, clocked in at an astounding 1,100 pounds, making them 4 times heavier than ostriches. All I can say is, they were some exceptionally enormous birds. To meet our next colossal critter, we must take a dive down into the depths of the ocean. It's here where you'll find cephalopods, a group that includes marine mollusks like squid, octopus, and cuttlefish. The title of the longest living cephalopod today goes to the giant squid. I mean, the clue is in the name. In some cases, they grow to over 42 feet long. Granted, most of this length is in its tentacles, with the body span being closer to 8 feet. Length isn't the only sizable aspect of these squid, though. They also have the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, measuring up to 10 inches in diameter. Their peepers are about the same size as a human's head. The colossal squid, despite its impressive size, is ironically slightly shorter than its giant cousin, measuring 33 feet long. However, its chunkier body makes it the heaviest living cephalopod, weighing in at a hefty 1,100 pounds, close to double the weight of a large giant squid. Surprising as it may seem, neither the colossal nor giant squid holds the title of the world's biggest cephalopod. Instead, that accolade goes to Parapuzosia seppenradensis. These ammonites, or shelled cephalopods, lived way back during the late Cretaceous period, between 166 million years ago and 66 million years ago. The largest fossil shell of this astonishing ammonite was close to 6 feet in diameter. However, this was an incomplete specimen, with estimates suggesting that a whole shell could reach an incredible 11 feet in diameter. This means that based solely on their shells, these chunky cephalopods would dwarf us humans. Even more impressive, the Parapuzosia seppenradensis shells alone may have weighed over 1,500 pounds, nearly a third more than the colossal squid. And that's just the shell. The total weight of these beasts may have exceeded 3,200 pounds, or 1.6 tons. But how come they got so big? One study assessed historical ammonite finds and argued that pressure from predators at the time forced these ammonites to evolve to be bigger and, therefore, harder to hunt. However, their findings were inconclusive. It's a miracle these giants didn't just sink to the seafloor. Eastern lowland gorillas are the largest and most imposing living primates in the world. Full-grown males stand 5.5 feet tall, while their massive, muscular bodies can weigh as much as 485 pounds. Intimidating as these gorillas are, there once existed a primate that would have made even them nervous. Only tooth and jawbone remains of Gigantopithecus blacki have been discovered to date, but they are so large that paleontologists estimate that this prodigious primate would have towered up to 10 feet tall and weighed a staggering 1,200 pounds. Sadly, Gigantopithecus blacki's formidable frame ultimately led to its downfall. While it was likely a herbivore, its size meant it depended on a large amount of food like fruits, leaves, and forest plants. However, around 100,000 years ago, global warming caused a significant reduction in forested areas, transforming them into savanna landscapes. This depleted Gigantopithecus blacki's food sources, ultimately leading to its extinction. Phew. Good thing these guys aren't around today. I mean, oh no. So tragic. Poor, absolutely terrifying, giant primate. Studies into phobias have loosely established that around half of all adults experience anxiety about snakes, with 2 to 3% meeting the criteria of a snake phobia. And to be fair, who can blame them when there are serpents like the 30-foot-long and 550-pound green anaconda out there? However, things could have been a whole lot worse for those who suffer from ophidiophobia. You see, back around 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene period, the world was home to the biggest species of snake ever discovered, the Titanoboa. From the name, you're probably envisioning a snake that can rear itself up above the tree line, or one that could take up the width of an entire road. And you wouldn't be far off. Based on fossils of a gigantic vertebrate discovered in Colombia, which you can see compared to a regular anaconda vertebrate, archaeologists believe that these sizable serpents could grow to a hair-raising 42 feet long, over 7 times the length of an average human. If it reared up just half of its body, it would tower over you at the height of a 2-story building. Titanoboa are also estimated to have weighed up to 2,540 pounds, which is as heavy as a small car and almost 5 times as heavy as a green anaconda. The good news is they weren't venomous. The bad news is they were constrictors. That's right. These 42-foot-long beasts obtained their meals by coiling around their prey, crushing and suffocating them. Geez, thank goodness these aren't still around. I mean, could you imagine if one of these snakes slithered through a town? They'd have to call the army. Yep, these guys have undeniably cemented their place as one of the world's largest animals. From behind glass or on a screen, polar bears can appear cute up close. However, their true story is far more terrifying. These Arctic-based animals can weigh over 1,300 pounds, stand as tall as 5 feet at the shoulder, and reach 10 feet in length, making them not only the largest bear but also the largest living land carnivore. Yet, they aren't the biggest bears to ever walk the planet. They're not even close. Going back 700,000 years, the Arctodus simus was endemic to South America and takes the title for biggest bear ever. Take a look at this humerus specimen, which is the top bone of the front appendage. Here we have the humerus of a spectacled bear, weighing about 160 pounds. Now, this belongs to an American black bear, weighing around 460 pounds. And this gargantuan humerus is from Arctodus simus, which paleontologists have concluded means the bear was somewhere between 2,700 pounds and 4,500 pounds. Even at the smallest estimate, that's still about a third more than the biggest polar bear. When they stood on their hind legs, their fossilized remains suggest they would have reached a neck-breaking height of 14 feet. Even the paws of Arctodus simus were enormous, with a length of 15 inches. They're more than double the size of a human hand. Unfortunately for these big bears, their stupendous size also led to their downfall. It's theorized that smaller and faster predators outnumbered and outcompete them, limiting their food sources until they eventually died out 700,000 years ago. Thank goodness. I couldn't bear to think how intimidating it would be to come across one of these literal giants. In Niger, West Africa, there was once a species of crocodilian that didn't just rule the food chain. It dominated it. Modern saltwater crocodiles like this one are not to be trifled with. They can reach some 23 feet in length and weigh up to 2,650 pounds, making them the largest and heaviest living reptiles in the world. However, that's nothing compared to what was once known as Sarcosuchus imperator, which lived during the early Cretaceous period around 112 million years ago. Based on skull and vertebrae fossils, paleontologists estimate that these crocs grew up to 40 feet in length. In terms of weight, they are likely to have packed on close to 9 tons, making the super croc twice the length and nearly 8 times as heavy as the 18-foot-long and 2,370-pound beast that was the largest crocodile ever held in captivity. If that wasn't fearsome enough, these abnormal amphibians had super long snouts too, filled with no less than 132 conical teeth, which were up to 6 inches long. Thanks to their bulky build and the fact that its teeth didn't interlock, paleontologists believe that Sarcosuchus imperator had the ability to ambush and prey upon anything that entered the water, whether it was a giant fish or even dinosaurs. Super croc. Yeah, super scary croc. Probably won't come as a surprise that the largest living land animal is the elephant. To be specific, the African elephant, with bulls reaching a shoulder height of 13 feet and a whopping weight of 12 tons. But somewhere between 2 and 5.1 million years ago, during the Pleistocene period, it turns out there was an even more enormous elephant on the scene. Based on the discovery of a partial femur estimated to be some 6 feet 2 inches long, paleontologists have estimated that an ancient elephant known as Palaeoloxodon antiquus was an imposing 17 feet tall at the shoulder. This means they towered over any modern-day elephant, making them taller than a T-Rex and human combined. On top of that, these bulky beasts weighed in at a whopping 24 tons, making them well over twice as heavy as an African elephant. One look at the skull of these guys tells you just how gigantic they really were. And at a staggering 12 feet long, their straight tusks were twice the length of an average African elephant tusk. In fact, one tusk alone is estimated to have had a mass of 260 pounds, meaning it's more than 60 pounds heavier than the average American adult human. All that crowns these ancient elephants as the largest land mammals to ever walk the earth. Man, that's going to be hard to forget. Back in 1886, on a farm in Peterborough, England, paleontologists discovered what they thought were the back plates of a stegosaurus. However, the more they uncovered, the more unsure they became of what this creature actually was. Turns out it wasn't a stegosaurus or even a dinosaur, but the impossibly gigantic bones of the Leedsichthys. Crazy as that sounds, it was an easy mistake to make. Of all bony fish, which are fish that have skeletons made up of bone tissue, unlike the cartilage most have, the Leedsichthys is the largest. This freaky fish, which swam in the world's seas 165 million years ago, stretched back an astonishing 55 feet, making this freakish fish larger than a school bus and close to 10 times the size of the average human. Heck, these things would make submarines look like rubber duckies. Who knew fish could be so scary? Thanks to their gigantic size, Leedsichthys would also have set back the scales, weighing in at around 50 tons. Today, the largest living bony fish is the formidable floating blob known as the ocean sunfish. As you can see, these things far exceed humans when it comes to size, yet ocean sunfish are only around 20% as long as the Leedsichthys, and, even at some 5,000 pounds, are less than a 20th of their weight. Honestly, I'm kind of glad these don't exist anymore. I'd never go in the ocean again if they did. We're actually staying underwater for now because this next colossal critter is so sizable it would have made even the Leedsichthys nervous. This is the, wait, no, I just can't say it like he does. Jason STM. Take it away. It's Megalodon. Yes, while the Meg was a fictional action film about a gigantic shark, the Megalodon itself was a real shark. In fact, it was the largest shark to have ever existed and one of the largest fish in the world, which terrorized the oceans during the Miocene and Pliocene periods, approximately 20 to 3.6 million years ago. Now, exactly how big it could grow is up for debate, with all estimates based on tooth size, the largest verified specimen of which is a colossal 7.48 inches long. But why teeth? Because sharks don't have bones. Their skeletons are made of cartilage, which doesn't fossilize well. Smaller estimates from the Natural History Museum put it at just 50 feet, whereas some researchers claim it could reach lengths as big as 82 feet. At the largest estimate, even the average whale shark, the largest living cartilaginous fish, is no match for Megalodon, reaching just half their length. Unfortunately for anything that shared the ocean with these terrors, Megalodon's massive maw held some 276 of these 7-inch razor-sharp teeth, giving it an estimated maximum bite force of some 182,000 newtons. For contrast, a human's maximum bite force is around 1,317. Anyone else suddenly feeling a little more grateful for great whites? Titanosaurs. Dinosaurs are known as the largest group of land animals that have ever walked the earth, but the herbivorous sauropod subgroup was the biggest of them all. In fact, the biggest sauropods were dubbed titanosaurs, which has to be the coolest name ever. With immensely long necks and thick, squat limbs, they were well adapted to carry their huge frames and an obscene amount of weight. But how much exactly? Well, back in 1987, the biggest ever found was the Argentinosaurus, a dino from some 90 million years ago in the late Cretaceous period. Very few bone fragments remained, And from these limited specimens, paleontologists estimated the size of this thing was some 115 to 120 feet long, and that it could have weighed in at an ungodly 77 tons, roughly the same as 12 African elephants. Though this estimation was very rough, this was a huge discovery, literally. But then, in 2014, something even bigger was found. The remains of the Patagotitan, a giant from 101 million years ago during the early Cretaceous period. This big beast's femur was over 8 feet long. That is just the top of the leg bone, and it's taller than an average human. From this, paleontologists estimated it could have measured a gargantuan 123 feet long, weighing in at 63 tons. That's as long as 20 people laid down end to end and heavier than 9 African elephants. Holy cow, or I guess elephant in this case. So the biggest was the Patagotitan, but the heaviest is the Argentinosaurus. I mean, for now. Who knows, we might dig up something even bigger in the next few years. Whopping whales. There aren't many animals out there that can trump the Titanosaurs for size. Sperm whales, which can make ships look teeny tiny, do come close, measuring up to 60 feet long and able to weigh over 80 tons. But that's still not bigger than the Titanosaurs. The same can't be said for another modern-day ocean dweller, however. Any guesses? Yep, I'm talking about the blue whale, widely seen as the largest animal ever to exist on Earth. Surprisingly, though, in terms of length, they come up short on both Titanosaurs, with individuals measuring from 80 to 100 feet long. Okay, so they may not have the length, but the biggest blue whale ever found clocked in at 210 tons, which is almost triple the weight of the heavier Argentinosaurus. Amazingly, there once existed another whale that may have been even larger. Back in the Eocene period, around 39 million years ago, Perucetus inhabited the world's oceans with a length between 55 and 65 feet. It was very large, but stunted compared to the blue whale. Despite that, paleontologists estimated this beast weighed up to 370 tons. For context, if this ancient whale did weigh 370 tons, it would be more than 3 times as heavy as a blue whale. Imagine the fear of having one of these balloon behemoths swimming under your ship. But why do researchers think it was so big? Well, when the fossilized vertebrae of this beast were discovered, they weighed in at over 220 pounds each. It's believed that in spite of Perucetus's shorter length, their skeleton would have weighed twice that of a blue whale's, with a mass between 5.8 and 8.3 tons. That's because typical bones are full of tiny holes, making them lighter. However, the bones of Perucetus were solid throughout. In fact, they're so sturdy it'd be impossible to drive a nail into one with a hammer. So its skeleton was incredibly dense, like that of a manatee. From this, researchers have theorized that the heavy bones helped keep their bodies submerged as they fed, while the remainder of their body mass was made up by a tremendous amount of fat and muscle to keep them buoyant. Man, these guys take the meaning of big bones to a whole new level. The bloop. But gigantic as the blue whale and Perucetus are, they've got nothing on what some researchers believe is the largest animal to ever exist. To explain, we've got to go back to 1997. Back then, researchers for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration (NOAA) were listening for volcanic activity in the southern Pacific. To do this, they placed underwater microphones across the ocean. While they didn't pick up any volcanic activity, the scientists did hear a sound that shocked them to their core. Have a listen. Play audio clip of the bloop. It may not sound like much, but the noise was so loud that microphones 2,000 miles apart were able to pick it up. Chillingly, NOAA's Christopher Fox noted that the sound, nicknamed the bloop, contained a rapid variation in frequency similar to the sounds made by marine animals. Blue whales, for example, make a similar sound that can be heard up to 1,000 miles away, with their calls reaching 188 dB, louder than a roaring jet engine. Now, considering the bloop's call was heard 2,000 miles away, you'd assume that it's got to be way bigger than a blue whale. It may be hard to imagine a marine monster lurking at the bottom of the blue, but the deep oceans are still around 95% unexplored by humans. So who knows what's truly down there? Tamer estimations theorize that if the bloop does exist, it would be 250 feet long, triple the size of some blue whales, almost big enough to prey on them. While some go as far as saying any creature that loud has to be around 700 feet long, 6 times longer than a titanosaur, 7 times longer than a blue whale, and 50 times longer than a great white. But there are some major doubts over its existence today. Most respectable scientists believe that the bloop noise was actually the sound of an icequake. This is a common occurrence in the Southern Ocean that's caused by the cracking and melting of sea ice off glaciers into the ocean. As well as that, the infamous bloop sound is typically played back at 16 times normal speed, giving it the effect of an animal vocalization. In real time, the sound is more similar to that of an icequake. Play audio clip of an icequake. Okay, so chances are the 700-foot bloop doesn't exist. So there is no supersized oceanic beast lurking in the dark depths of the Pacific, at least that we know of. Which of these gigantic beasts impressed you the most? Have you seen any of the living ones in the flesh? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.